I'm here today to talk about Ptolemy. Know that one. Know that one either. Nah. I forgot about that one actually. Aye, him, that's our guy. No mucking about today, we're diving in head first. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and prepare to have your world turned upside down. Or at least 90 degrees to the east. Despite my little opening bit, the Ptolemy that we're talking about today isn't actually related to the Ptolemaic dynasty at all, I don't think. Claudius Ptolemeus, Ptolemy, was a mathematician, geographer and astronomer based in Alexandria from about AD 100 to AD 170-ish. We don't know much about him at all other than his major works that he wrote in his lifetime. His first major work was an astronomical piece called the Almagest, which he wrote around AD 150, from what we can tell. His death in AD 170 has been calculated using the body of work that we have. Basically, scholars have said if he wrote his first, most important one in AD 150, given the volume of work he's written after that, he has to have lived till at least AD 170, if that makes sense. Maths. Who would have known it's actually useful? Not me. With all respect to him, we don't care about his maths or his astronomy today. But those works were very influential and important to later science, but you know I don't care about that. The work we want to talk about today is his Geographia. Geography. No way! Which is a massive 7-volume book. But don't panic! We're not looking at all of the volumes today. Jesus Christ. The second volume pertains to Britain and Ireland. Well, Britain and Ireland, our modern ideas of Britain and Ireland didn't exist when Ptolemy was writing his Geographia, but just in general, Britain and Ireland, right? Chapter 1 is all about Hibernia. It's all about Ireland and like other surrounding little islands as well. Chapter 2 is all about the British mainland, so Wales, England, Scotland. But most importantly, Ptolemy has written down the names of the tribes which inhabited the mainland and their associated territories, settlements, and some Roman forts that were put in place to sort of keep an eye on them. So let's take a closer look at this map that he's drawn and the tribes he's listed upon it and see what we can find out. Come on! If we're talking about the full span of the coordinates in the map given in Ptolemy's Geographia, it stretches from the tippy top of the Shetland Islands all the way to southeast China. So it's a pretty good source for showing us the sort of peak of the Roman Empire and how far it actually stretched. But Ptolemy didn't put in all the legwork himself. A lot of it is based on coordinates and information gathered by someone called Marinus of Tyre. It'll be Tyre. And he's yoinked and twisted that work. He's taken it, popped it into his work along with his own findings, which were usually conducted by sea. For example, for Britain, we know that Ptolemy sort of sailed round the coast and pinpointed big landmarks and river mouths and things like that he saw on the coastline that he thought was important. But we're not actually sure if Ptolemy ever set foot onto British soil, if he actually stopped off for a wee cup of tea. Ken? Therefore, his map is not without mistake or distortion. Clearly, when you plot the coordinates given for Britain, it becomes very clear that something's not quite right there. The entirety of Scotland, or at least whatever's north of Hadrian's Wall, right? I know that's like the top chunk of England as well. It's been turned 90 degrees to the east, to the right. We don't know why he's done that. We don't know if he's made a mistake. Some scholarship has suggested that when he was taking the coordinates, if there was an eclipse, that could have put his results on the wonk. Some have suggested that it's an expanded view so that he could fit in more writing and say like, this tribe was here, this tribe was there, but I doubt it. And if he has based half of this research off Marinus from earlier, maybe he just hasn't double-checked his sources right and used incorrect information. Bad. That's bad scholarship. Whatever the reason is, Scotland is very much on the wonk.
I broke my back. Back is broken. Spinal.
But the information actually given on the map is incredibly useful, whether you deem it correct or not. Ptolemy gives the names of Scottish native tribes and their rough sort of territory boundaries, along with some of their major settlements or associated forts within the area. Roman forts. Now the map is clearly wonky, it's clearly no right, so we can't fully trust that he has got this information completely 100% correct when it comes to these tribes and whatnot. But there's honestly not much we can do about that. This is still some of the best information we have for any of these tribes existing, so we're going to have to just take his word for it. So without further ado, Let's go through each of the tribes together. Even if they're no right, even if he's got something wrong, it's all we got, kid. The tribes of Scotland. I don't like calling it Northern Britain. I'm sorry, I know that's more correct for this time frame, but I don't like calling it Northern Britain. Sorry. Ptolemy's geography, along with Tacitus's Agricola, which I'll be doing a separate video on another time, are the two best sources that we have for tribes living north of Hadrian's Wall. Not to sound too Game of Thronesy, but north of the wall. Ptolemy lists 17 different tribes and ascribes their territories to Scotland, even if it's a bit wonky. And I'm going to try and indicate where they are on the map in editing. That'll be a laugh, won't it? Let's see how well that goes. From roughly south to roughly north, we have got, you ready? The Brigantes, the Selgovae, the Novantae, the Damnoni, the Votadini, or the Ottadini, if you prefer, the Epidae, the Venicones, the Texali, not sure if I'm saying that one right, the Vacomagi, the Caledones, the Creones, the Decante, the Carnonicae, the Lugi, the Smertae, the Kyreni, and the Cornavi. Some of these are more major tribes, some of these are more minor tribes. Of course, over time, their territories can change. A lot of them merged mainly into one larger tribe later on, and for some we have more evidence for than others. So I'm going to go through them all now, but don't worry, I'll be quick. This is just a quick wee rundown over all of them. If you would like, I would happily go into each tribe separately for a different video at a later date. Let me know in the comments if you'd like that. But there's really not much info that we have on some of them because they were swallowed into other tribes and there was conflict and things like that. So for a lot of them, all we have is the name given to us by Ptolemy. Sorry about it, but let me know if you'd like that in the comments anyway. I could at least do the bigger tribes that have more evidence, you know what I mean? Anyway, kicking us off with the Brigantes. The Brigantes are more of a sort of honourable mention, to be honest. They inhabited the land which is now northern England, so they're not really a Scottish tribe, if you will, but they inhabited directly south of Hadrian's Wall, and they sort of line of Hadrian's Wall, so they were dispersed when the wall was built. There would have been some above it, some below it, and then when the wall was built they would have had to move, probably. But indeed an honourable mention because not quite Scottish, are they, in terms of what we're talking about today? I know none of them are technically Scottish because Scotland didn't exist, but shut up, that's not the point of today's video. Moving on to an actual Scottish tribe, the Selgovae. We're starting off strong with one that we know absolutely nothing about. Their name can roughly be translated to people of the hunt or the hunters. Don't make a Teen Wolf joke. Don't make a Teen Wolf joke. Don't make a Teen Wolf joke, I swear to God. And we can't even be certain that this was their territory. Ptolemy places them at the fort of Tremontium at Newsteads, with their base being the Eildon Hill? Eildon Hill? I don't know how to say that. At Melrose. The big hills at Melrose. In terms of more modern scholarship, looking at Ptolemy's map and going, hey, don't think that's quite right. The Selgovae have been moved slightly further south towards more Dumfries and Galloway direction. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a baby. Just a baby, I don't know anything.
Sorry, I'm a little baby.
Next up we have the Novantae, again round about Dumfries and Galloway direction. Possible neighbours of the Selgovae if they have been attributed the right territory themselves. The Novantae were more laid back. They were chilled out little farmers. Ptolemy named their main settlement as Locopibium, wow, which is possibly the modern town of Whithorn, but we don't know that for sure. But that's the most likely place it could be. And being fairly close to the line of Hadrian's Wall, very close to the border, this place was very quickly taken under Roman control. They lived in fairly undefended settlements, and they were just little farmer guys. They just want peace, you know what I mean? They're not going to fight anyone. So the Romans quickly swooped in and took that whole bit of land. Okay, on to the Damnoni. Getting a bit more exciting, a bit better evidence here. The Damnoni territory was sort of the whole of the Clyde Valley and Strathclyde, so pretty much modern day Glasgow, our Central Belt besties, ancient Glaswegians, oh my god. And the name Damnoni roughly translates to the lords or the dominators or the masters of something. We don't know what. And it's possible that their main settlement was at Walls Hill in Renfrewshire. Renfrewshire. My words aren't wording today, not quite right. As we all well know though, the Central Belt area from Glasgow to Edinburgh was eventually cut off with the line of the Antonine Wall. Romans completely took that whole bit up and built the Antonine Wall before having to fall back again later anyway. So we know that the sort of Central Belt line was controlled by the Romans, at least for a little bit. They tried to get their control along the Central Belt bit. But I digress. That's a video for another time. Moving on to the next tribe, please, maestro. Now we're moving on to the Ottadini. Game on! Covering Edinburgh, the Lothians, and not Fife. It's a radio joke for you. I prefer saying Vottadini to Ottadini, just feels better, so I'm going to call them the Vottadini. But you can pick whatever one you prefer. Personal preference, doesn't really matter. The main settlement of the Vottadini was Traprain Law, through towards Haddington in East Lothian, and I get so excited talking about Traprain Law because I absolutely love it, and I really want to go one day. It's a massive hill fort in East Lothian, and it's probably most well known for the Traprain Law treasure, which sits in the National Museum of Scotland. It does tours all the time because it's this huge hack silver hoard that was found on the site. Roman-made silver items, and we don't know how they got there, and it's all hacked up. It's hack silver, so it's not, you know, like silver plates and goblets and things that can actually be used. It's all been cut up, and there's coins from the continent as well, so it's thought that either this silver was traded with the continent and there was actually connections across the water, or perhaps it was some sort of Roman bribe or payment for something, a payment to the tribe. I'll be mentioning that in its own separate video as well because, oh my god, I could talk forever about Traprain Law, I really could. Anyway, the last interesting bit I'm going to tell you about the Vottadini for now is that their descendants, the Gododin, yeah, the Gododin, what a name, who are the folk that established Dunedin, right? Dunedin being Edinburgh. And their main settlement was possibly Castle Rock. Before the castle was there, there's possibly even earlier settlement or like ruling, you know, base up on Castle Rock. And I don't know if any excavations have actually been done because it's still like an active military site, so I'm not sure they're allowed to do that. But it'd be really cool to find out more about that. But again, that's another video for another time and I'm getting far too excited. I really am. Let's calm it back down now and talk about the Epidi. Epidi? I don't know. And they were more west coast based, possibly around like Argyll. It's thought that these people originated on the island of Islay and sort of around all the wee islands on the west coast sort of side and spread across Arran, Jura and Kintyre. This information I'm not sure about, but apparently their name derives from the Gaelic for horse. And it's supposed to be like those who keep horses or something, but I'm not sure about that. So just take that with a pinch of salt. I'm not very sure about that bit of information, but I thought I'd try and provide some sort of rough translation. Anyway, sorry, my language skills stopped at Nat 5 and then went to Duolingo, so I'm really not good at all when it comes to languages. Next up, the Vennecones, who occupied what is now Fife.
That's Fife!
The Vennecones territory was very active with Roman activity, as the Romans used the east coast of Scotland as their sort of main path to venture as far north as they could up to the Highlands. Of course, that didn't quite work out well for them. Their name roughly translates to the hounds of some sort, something to do with dogs. And they were known for wearing huge bronze armbands, or at least their elite were known for wearing huge bronze armbands that aren't really found within the territories of any other tribes. But they were also known for burying their dead in stone-lined graves, which at the time was incredibly uncommon in Scotland for tribes like this. Now moving on to the Takes Alley. I'm not sure if I'm saying that one right. At bloody all. This tribe lived in small villages around what is now the Aberdeenshire area. They possibly had a settlement and then an associated Roman fort at the town of Devana, which is modern day Aberdeen. It has grown into a granite city. Aberdeen is in a very strategic place at the mouth of the River Dee. Very well connected in terms of the sea, you know, sea trading routes and ships and things like that. So it would be the perfect sort of place to have a settlement, even in ancient times, and for the Romans to be able to, I was about to say swim up, sail up. The Vacomagi now are known as the inhabitants of the curved fields. They were based sort of around Strathmore, where that really nice water comes from. It was very, very fertile land, so of course they were farmers making use of such fertile land. Ptolemy literally mentions them once, so that's all I have for you on them. Sorry. Now moving on to the Caledonians, which is another big boy. The Caledonians essentially, were a formidable foe for the Romans, to say the least. The translation of the name means possessing of hard feet. Okay, which is possibly linked to the rocky terrain in which they lived and navigated and inhabited and all that good guff, right? And their territory stretched from possibly around Fort William all the way to Inverness.
Here, bud, that's now a bank machine. It's not a bank machine, it's a fence.
The Caledonians was one of the major larger tribes that ended up swallowing a lot of the smaller ones, especially the ones to the north of the Caledonies territory. And now absolutely speeding through a bunch of the smaller tribes to the north that are only mentioned like once by Ptolemy, and they were indeed later swallowed by the Caledonies. In fact, some scholars even just say they weren't even tribes on their own, they were sub-tribes of the Caledonies, sort of under the protection of the wider tribe. And those are the Creones, the Decanti, the Lugi, the Carnonici, the Kyrene and the Cornavi, which are all the ones sort of right up the tippy top. So they aren't even seen as tribes within their own right necessarily by all scholarship. They are just seen as subgroups of Caledonies, which is a wee bit shan. But hey ho, we're never going to have the true answers, are we? And then there's the Smerti, who are another small tribe that was eventually swallowed into the Caledonies, but they kind of had a little quirk about them, which is why I've left them out of that little list. They had the land between Ross and Sutherland, right up the tippy north. Smerti, their name roughly links to smeared with blood. Slay. And it's thought that the people of the Smerti would smear themselves in a sort of ritualistic manner with maybe animal blood, maybe the blood of their enemies, we don't know, some sort of sacrifice would happen, and then they would smear themselves in blood for battle. Not only that, but Tacitus, the other guy with the other important source that I'll talk about in another video, he describes them as big and ginger. That's your whistle-stop tour of the 17 tribes of Scotland as listed by Ptolemy. Sorry about that. Another thing that's important to remember, right? Scotland was inhabited for a long time before the Romans arrived, but there's no written evidence of the people of Scotland until the Romans arrived in Britain. I'm so annoyed that I can't remember the exact name of this theory, but there's an actual legitimate theory that exists out there. If one of you can remember the name of it, please let me know, because I'm so annoyed that I can't remember it and I can't Google the right phrase to find it. So please pop it in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. We can't be sure if these tribes existed prior to the Roman arrival or if they formed in reaction to the Romans arriving. That's the theory. You can't observe a native group of people in an uninterrupted state, if that makes sense. The mere arrival and existence of the observer has disrupted the natural sort of equilibrium. We can't see how the people lived in their own little... oh my god, this is so hard to explain. I wish I could just remember the name of it. You can't passively observe a group of people because they'd be consciously aware of that. You know, like when the Romans arrived, maybe the whole of Scotland wasn't in these tribes, and maybe it was the Romans arriving where they've all teamed up into their little groups. We don't even know if Ptolemy was right about half of this information. Half of the stuff that I've just told you, we don't know if that's right. Love him for that. Thank you, Ptolemy bestie. I don't know if I'm explaining that right at all, and I'm so sorry if I'm not, but that is a legitimate theory that I was taught about in university, and I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. But you can't observe native peoples in an uninterrupted state because the mere arrival of the observer has disrupted the natural equilibrium, and then they are conscious of that observer and could then be reacting to it and behaving differently from when the observer wasn't there. I'm so sorry. Ptolemy's wee silly map is clearly riddled with errors, but he still gives us a rough idea of what Britain possibly looked like at the peak time of the Roman Empire. This is absolutely not precise. We will never know for sure. There's a chance Ptolemy never set foot in Britain, so how could he know the exact boundaries of each territory? Or the exact people who inhabited what bit? So he's absolutely not trustworthy in the slightest, but he's the best that we have, other than Tacitus. He's one of the best that we've got. So here's a question for you. What tribe do you most resonate with? What tribe are you drawn to? I'm Votadini till I die, baby. Votadini young team! YOD! God. I'd not just say that. Right, enough of that. Thank you so much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you feel like you learned something new today, even though the things that you learned will be completely wrong. Well, maybe not completely wrong. There might be a little bit of truth to Ptolemy. There must be a little bit of truth to him, you know what I mean? But if you have learned something new, whether it's correct or not, hit like to let me know. And hit subscribe while you're there. You can ring the bell as well if you want some notifications every time I upload every Tuesday/Wednesday, and pop some little shorts up during the week for you to keep you entertained while I'm away. You can also share this video to your pals. There's a wee link, you can press the wee button, send a wee link, share it to your Facebook, your Instagram, whatever. I don't mind. It's an extra view for me. As always, my bibliography will be listed below if any of you actually care to go and read it. You don't have to, but it's there for you if you'd like. Along with the links to all of my other social medias if you want to go and have a wee nosy. It's fine. I'm nosy, I do it all the time. Other than that, I wish you all a very happy rest of your week, and I shall see you all next Tuesday. Tatty bye now! I don't know why I've started waving like this. I've started waving like a 2-year-old.